Welcome to the playoff edition of the Fearless Football Forecast. The regular season's over. Half of Pitt County teams are no longer playing this season, Tony. But when you look at the games here, we talked about it a minute ago, that some of these teams have connections to the teams they're playing.
Yeah.
There's some familiar matchups here in the first round of the playoffs. Should be exciting.
Yeah, that always makes it fun when you have teams that kind of know each other.
Yeah.
Because maybe they built up a little bit of bad blood during the regular season matchup, which will make this one even more intense. You got to like that.
Exactly. All right, we'll start off. There's 3 games, as I said. We'll start with the teams at home, then we'll get to Conley, which is on the road. Tony starts off here. Topsail travels to a North Pitt team.
Yeah, an interesting matchup. North Pitt was on a roll, probably the hottest team in Pitt County down the stretch. They were really on a roll before going down to Kinston and getting beat last week. That's not necessarily that bad of a loss. Kinston's always tough, particularly at home. Kinston had nothing to lose there. So, but still, you don't want to go into the playoffs with a loss. I think Coach Bowl and his crew are kind of disappointed. They'd have loved to have closed that out with a win. But playoff football in Bethel, they're certainly happy about that because that hasn't always been the case in the last few years.
True, yeah, that's a good point. Who's your pick there?
I'm going to pick the Panthers. I'm going strictly on home field advantage. I feel like the crowd's going to show up there. Like I said, they're happy to have at least one home playoff game. I know Coach Bowles happy about that as well. I think it'll be close because Topsail's tough. These teams are pretty evenly matched, but I think North Pitt will pull out a win.
All right, yeah, I'm with you. I'll go with the Panthers as well. I think it's a close game, and something we need to mention here. Last year, North Pitt traveled to Topsail for the first-round playoff game. Topsail won a close game.
Yeah.
That's not exactly an easy road trip either way.
Yes.
So I remember some of the coaches and fans complaining about that trip last year. I think the opposite happens this year. Topsail comes to Bethel, as you said, home field. I think it's a close game. North Pitt wins a close one. I'll preview the next game here. Gates County is at Ayden-Grifton. Similar to North Pitt, Ayden-Grifton coming off a disappointing loss.
Yeah.
They faced Goldsboro the end of the year, basically conference title on the line. They lose, a game at Goldsboro. So,
Close loss, too.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, a game that was competitive, 30-25, I think was the score.
Right.
They hosted a Gates County team that's 7-3. Both of these teams are 7-3.
Yeah.
They both have played different schedules and had their fair share of kind of cupcake wins.
Yeah.
So I think both schedules, both teams, are, they have similar records, but are coming in similar situations, which makes the game interesting for sure.
Definitely.
My pick there, I'm going to go with the Chargers.
Yeah.
They beat Gates County last year on the way to that state championship appearance. I think they do the same. I think they're just too strong from Gates County. Even though they're coming off a loss, I trust Cornwell and crew to get that thing turned around. I think they beat Gates County.
I think if anything, Ayden-Grifton will be motivated by that close loss. They wanted to win another Carolina Conference title. It didn't go down the way they wanted to. Now the second season begins. As you mentioned, Coach Cornwell is really good at getting his teams prepared for these playoff games. I think Ayden-Grifton will win pretty easily, even though these teams have even 7-3 records.
All right, last game here, Tony. D.H. Conley is at Triton.
Yeah.
Top-seeded Triton.
Right, and we were talking about it beforehand. I've never known Triton to be a football powerhouse, but you look down and they're undefeated. It's kind of hard to argue with that success. I feel like of all the 1 versus 8 seeds, I think Conley, as you mentioned before we got going here, I think Conley can hang in there.
Yeah.
I think Conley's motivated with all the things that have gone on with them this season. They still have a powerful offense. Their defense has been pretty stout, too. I think it'll be a good game between an 8 and a 1 seed.
All right, who's your pick in that one?
That being said, I think Triton will stay undefeated. I mean, like I said, you just can't argue with being undefeated at this point in the season. They're averaging 44 points a game, explosive offense. I think they're going to have a little bit too much for the Vikings.
All right, yeah, I'm going to go with Triton as well. Conley isn't your normal 8 seed, as you said. They had to forfeit a couple games. They wouldn't be an 8 seed probably if that didn't happen.
No way.
So I think this is close, definitely a close game. From what I can tell and have read a little bit, both teams like to run the ball, kind of that wing tee style. We could be looking at a grind-it-out kind of game. Turnover, special teams, different things can come into play. But Triton's undefeated. It's tough to overlook that. I think Conley can play well. It wouldn't surprise me if they won, but I'm going to go with Triton, kind of the safe pick there.
Yeah.
Hate it for the Vikings, but maybe that's the motivation for them to go win. So that's all we have this week. There's your 3 games. Make sure you go watch one of the games this weekend. Check reflector.com, and we'll see how the teams go.